Near the village of Mala Tokmachka in the Zaporizhzhia region, Russian forces launched what can only be described as one of the more unusual assaults we've seen in this conflict, a large-scale attack using motorcycles. Motorcycle assaults aren't completely new in this war. They've been popping up more and more on the Russian side as a tactic to move quickly and in smaller groups, trying to avoid the kind of detection that heavier vehicles attract. But what made this particular operation stand out was the timing. Instead of moving under the cover of dawn or dusk, which is pretty much standard practice to stay hidden, Russian commanders decided to launch this attack at 6 inches the afternoon on broad daylight. Not exactly the stealthy approach you'd expect.
Ебать, месиво сейчас начнется. Я того рот ебал. Давайте, парни! Воу! Вот это пиздец. Давай, давай.
More than 30 Russian motorized vehicles took part, pushing along 3 separate routes all at once, clearly trying to overwhelm the defense by coming from multiple directions. And to give themselves an edge, some of those motorcycles were fitted with special equipment designed to help clear minefields. A few of them were even carrying mobile electronic warfare systems. Those are the devices that can jam communications and disrupt Ukrainian drones. But here's where things went sideways for them. The 118th Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces was ready. After several hours of combat, Ukrainian forces had stopped the assault cold. 26 Russian assault troops were neutralized in the engagement, and more than 10 additional soldiers were left with serious injuries, severe enough. According to Ukrainian military reports, Russian forces weren't even attempting to evacuate them from the field. More than 24 motorcycles were destroyed, along with up to 10 ATVs. Moving over to the Donetsk sector. A video recorded apparently by a Russian soldier from inside a moving vehicle shows the route that Russian forces are using to move near the front line. The road is lined with the wreckage of destroyed Russian military equipment. One after another, along the roadside, you can see vehicles that were caught by Ukrainian drone operators and taken out. At least 9 destroyed pieces of equipment are visible in the footage. And this wasn't filmed from a drone, it was filmed by someone riding right through it, probably not realizing just how much the video would end up saying about the situation on the ground. Here's one that's a little more on the lighter side, well, depending on your perspective. Another piece of video has surfaced showing a Russian mobile fire group, which is basically a small armed escort team abandoning their mission the moment a Ukrainian drone shows up. A Russian fuel tanker needed protection while moving near the front. That's a reasonable concern, given everything we just talked about in the last segment. So a mobile fire group was assigned to escort a pickup truck with a mounted machine gun, positioned to provide air cover against drones. But as soon as the team spotted or heard an incoming Ukrainian UAV, the entire group dropped everything. The soldiers sprinted toward the nearest patch of trees, leaving both the pickup truck with the machine gun and the fuel tanker completely unattended in the open. Abandoning your post and leaving a mission-critical asset like a fuel tanker completely exposed is a serious problem. Let's head to the Black Sea. The Ukrainian naval forces destroyed 3 Russian unmanned surface vessels, controlled boats designed to be used as weapons. These aren't your typical naval engagements. This is a newer kind of warfare, and both sides have been developing and deploying these unmanned surface vessels throughout the conflict. The operation came together through close coordination between the Ukrainian Navy and the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. The Navy released footage showing the destruction of one of the vessels, though they didn't specify exactly where or when the engagement took place. But some additional context came from Serhiy Bezkresnov, an advisor to Ukraine's defense minister, who shared details about the attempted Russian attack. According to him, at around 4 inches the morning on June 23rd, Russian forces launched multiple unmanned surface vessels in an attempt to strike Ukraine's coastline. The attack was intercepted, and through coordinated action by several Ukrainian armed forces units, all of the vessels were located and destroyed before they could reach their targets. Bezkresnov placed the location of the intercept near the Tendra Spit. That's an area off the coast of the occupied Kherson region. Now let's talk about a tactical challenge that the Ukrainian military has been dealing with in the Pokrovsk sector, and it's one that doesn't have an easy answer. According to Volodymyr Polevy, the head of communications for the 7th Rapid Response Corps of the Ukrainian Airborne Assault Forces, Russian forces have been setting up drone launch sites right inside the urban areas of Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad, cities in the Donetsk region that Russian forces currently occupy. What this means in practice is that the threat zone for Ukrainian forces doesn't start somewhere safely behind the front line. It starts right at those launch points, deep inside occupied urban areas. And from those positions, Russian drones can cover a kill zone of up to 25 kilometers into Ukrainian-held territory. That's a significant operational reach, and it creates real difficulties for Ukrainian units trying to move, resupply, or maneuver.
Ползи, ползи, не вилазь!
Подивитися ще один надійний маршрутчик для сюди.
Polevy explained that one of the key factors that has helped push back this threat is Ukraine's own consolidation of positions within those same urban areas. By maintaining a presence inside Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad, Ukrainian forces can reduce the effective range from which Russian drones can safely operate. On the offensive side, Ukrainian forces are also working to extend their own strike range deeper into Russian-held territory, what Polevy called a middle strike capability, covering the zone from about 30 kilometers out, using systems like HIMARS, rocket artillery, and other precision strike assets. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Special Operations Forces, working alongside members of an underground resistance network operating inside occupied Crimea, carried out a two-phase operation that knocked out a railroad bridge and then stopped Russian repair crews from fixing it. The target was a railroad bridge near the village of Rozdoln in Crimea, spanning the North Crimean Canal. This bridge was part of a key logistics network that Russian forces use to move supplies and personnel to support their military operations, both pushing supplies from Russia through Crimea to the southern front and maintaining the internal military infrastructure across the peninsula. On the night of June 22nd, Ukrainian soft drones struck the bridge multiple times. The explosions caused serious damage to the railroad tracks and critically caused one of the bridge's main spans to collapse. Train traffic on that section came to a complete halt. Any military commander in that situation would immediately try to get a repair crew out there to fix the damage as quickly as possible. That's exactly what the Russian side did. On the night of June 23rd, Ukrainian drones struck again. This time, they hit both the damaged bridge structure and the newly arrived repair equipment. The result? Russian plans for a quick restoration of that rail line were stopped in their tracks. Over in the Vovchansk sector, Ukrainian border guards from the 4-Post Brigade have been dealing with persistent Russian attempts to cross the Vovcha River and establish a foothold on the Ukrainian-held bank. Since spring, the tempo of these crossing attempts has increased, with Russian engineering units deploying pontoon bridge systems mounted on MTLB armored vehicles. The goal is straightforward. From a Russian perspective, get personnel and equipment across the river, secure a bridgehead, and use it to push further into Ukrainian-held territory. The drone operators from the 4-Post Brigade have been intercepting these attempts before they can gain traction. In the most recent reported incident, a Russian pontoon that was being prepared for a river crossing was detected and destroyed by Ukrainian drone operators, stopping the crossing attempt before it could even begin. The Ukrainian Air Force is still very much in the fight, and they're doing it in ways that show just how much they've adapted their tactics. Pilots flying MiG-29 fighters carried out a precision strike on Russian positions using Ukrainian-made aerial bombs. The target was a series of fortified shelters and positions in a wooded area along the front, the kind of location that opposing forces typically use to stage personnel and store supplies, because the tree cover provides some protection from overhead observation. Ukrainian pilots came in with domestically produced air bombs and delivered a series of direct hits on the enemy dugouts. The footage shows multiple explosions as the bombs hit their marks. According to the military, the strikes destroyed the shelters, neutralized personnel inside, and also set off secondary explosions from the occupiers' ammunition stored at the location.